What's up, flow traders? Merry Christmas. Today we're just going to do a little recap on the price action we saw last week. Kind of look at why price moved the way it did, and what we can look forward to this coming week. So once again, looking at the big picture. Um, just a reminder, if you tuned in last week, the orange flow channels are monthly and these purple are weekly. We have two main bullish targets here. We have around 4,900 on the weekly, and it's right around 4,900 on the monthly as well. It's a little below 4,900, but actually in a few days this is going to reprint. You can see how this reprints every month, and it will be right around 4,900. So big picture target is going to be 4,900 on ES. But let's see kind of what happened this week. So, we had this situation. I'm going to flip back here. These are 4-hour candles. And let's take a look at this MACD cycle here. So we were in this aggressive up cycle, and we can see that once the 4-hour MACD crossed up, we were full send bullish, and then it crossed down, and this 4-hour cycle was trying to turn bearish, but the daily and weekly cycles were so strong that it prevented a really big move down. Okay, so this 4-hour cycle was fighting, but the daily and weekly were still pushing, and that leads to kind of choppy behavior. So these blue flow channels are 4-hour, and the white is the daily. So a couple things have to happen here. So, if I go back, you can see how long it was since we had a true 4-hour down cycle, and I considered a true 4-hour down cycle when we're at the 4-hour bottoms, and that was all the way around December 7th. So the 4-hour was in this really strong bullish state, for almost 3 weeks or whatever it was. So this action here, when we're above the 4-hour top, that means the 4-hour is still strong. And we can see here it's trying to break down, right? The 4-hour is trying to break down and go through that down cycle, but the daily keeps snapping it up. The daily keeps snapping it up. Eventually the 4-hour takes over, and boom, we just aggressively shoot down to the 4-hour. Now, we use the 1.5 and 2.0 ATR levels. So the inner band is the 1.5, the outer band is the 2.0. We can see here we did a 2.0 test, a 1.5 test. There were a couple 1.5 tests here. What we actually rejected was actually, those are 2.5 tests. I have it set at 2.5. So we rejected 2.5s, and we rejected what is referred to as 3.5, which is just another ATR level that can stop price. A lot of times the 3.5 is going to be like the kind of last stop ATR level. So this 4-hour down cycle stops out at this level, and it goes right back up to the 4-hour top and taps out again. So this was the 4-hour cycle taking over. Another thing is, when we're on a really bullish cycle or a really bearish cycle, and we're outside of the daily tops for a long time, price is going to want to come back down and test the daily top. Usually it's about 5 days, so we can consider this a touch here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was the 6th day. Usually it's about 5.5 days is the average of when it'll come down and test the daily top. Now, computer programs, the market makers trade off algos, right? They trade off computer programs, and those sometimes hit the next day's ATR level. So we can see here we hit the following day's daily top, then again we hit the following day's daily top, and now it's reprinting up again. So this served two purposes. One, it was the 4-hour cycle taking over, and two, it was the daily cycle. It was this daily top touch, this retest of the daily top, and price just isn't going to like to stay above the dailies for too long without coming and testing it. So that's why we saw this, and this can be tough trading, right? Because it looks like we're turning down, but the daily keeps moving it up. We have ways, if you recall last week, we have ways that we like to trade that, and that involves staying inside of the lower time frames, like the 15s, kind of doing that ping pong action inside the 15s. But eventually the 4-hour takes over, we get our daily top tap, the 4-hour cycle ends, and boom, we're right back up. So now where are we at? So, we just opened and we held this 4-hour mid here. We're going to look at the MACD because the MACD tells us the cycle and the flow channels tell us the cycle. They work hand in hand. So we're sitting right around the 4-hour mid here as the MACD is really pinched, right? It's not really strong in either direction. It's flat. It's not really crossed up strong. It's not crossed down strong. It's just pretty flat right here. And we're at the 4-hour mid, which means there's not a lot of strength on the cycle using the flow channels, using the ATR levels, right? We're sitting right at the mid. We're strong when we break above, we're strong when we break below, but right now we're just sitting right at the mid. So we can kind of just let this guide us pretty easily. If we hold this 4-hour mid, we're going to have this as a target. If we get back above here, I'm really looking for 4,900. I really think that's going to be the level we hit. We can see here we have 48.60 at the 4-hour 3.5. Also, the monthly is actually at 48.69 at the moment, but keep in mind these are dynamic, and if we push up, these will push up as well. If we crack this, we can start to look short, right? And these aren't going to be really big moves. We'll be looking for 4-hour mid to bottom, then we wait and reevaluate. If we break through, then we can start looking more bearish. If we hold it, then we can play it back up to the mid. If we hold this, we'll go up to the top. If we break through the 4-hour top, then we can get pretty aggressive long again, just kind of like we planned on last week. The other thing to notice is how the 4-hour channels are starting. I'm going to move this away from the 3.5 because it just looks so, they look so big. It looks kind of goofy. Those ATR bands are pretty big. It's okay. So the other thing we can notice is how the 4-hour channels are starting to break back in the dailies. And that's going to be the first big sign of bearishness. We can see how when, they start to break out is when we get our bullish signal. It's a bullish signal, and when they start to break back in, it can be a sign that we'll be getting a bearish signal, because then the next time if these start to break in, the next time we go through a 4-hour down cycle, we'll be back in the dailies, which means we lose strength on the dailies. As soon as we get back below this daily top here, it means the daily is losing its bullish strength, and once again we can see how it's reprinting up, right? So today it's here, today it's here, actually tomorrow it'll be like up here. So price doesn't need to move down a lot for the cycles to lose its strength because of the dynamic nature of these ATR levels, okay? So it's pretty straightforward, I think, when we're looking at the 4-hour and daily to guide us. Once again, we hold this, we go to here. If we break out of here, then I think we push to that 4,900 level. If we crack this, we can look to here, which has the daily top and the 4-hour bottom at the same spot. And these levels line up like that for a reason, because if the daily is going to lose its strength, the 4-hour is going to have to get bearish enough to start really pushing on the daily. You can think about it like a tug of war between the bulls and the bears, between bullish and bearish cycle strength, however you want to look at it. And if we break back in here, then we can start looking for true bear cycles, and a true bear cycle would be a true daily down cycle, which would take us down to these daily bottoms. But once again, we can't say where the daily bottom will be if that happens, because it's going to be shifting every day. On a daily flow channel, these shift every day. On a 4-hour, they shift every 4 hours. On a weekly, they shift every week, right? So yeah, that's kind of what happened last week. I know this was an aggressive move, and I'm sure a lot of people got caught trying to catch knives. If you happen to catch the momentum, it was a really, really good short, right? I know a lot of people in our group hammered this move here because we were waiting for that 4-hour to take over, and for whatever reason they trusted the setup and hammered it through, and then we start to ping pong back through. So right now there's not a lot of strength on the 4-hour. The daily is starting to lose its strength as well. When we look at the cycle point indicator up here, we see that the daily is starting to lose strength, but it's still crossed up, so it's still fairly strong. So yeah, we'll have to kind of see how tomorrow plays, but it really can be that simple. So thank for joining us, and Merry Christmas, and I will check you